Good evening, this is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV. It's Tuesday night. It is Ben Stowe night across the country, and we have him right here with us. Good evening, Ben.
Hey, John.
It is great to be back with you this week.
Great to be back. So, John Wayne said, any day you wake up is a good day.
That's true. Although there's some days after a gig, I'd like to sleep through the whole day if that would be possible. You've had those days too, I imagine. Over. Yes. Well, let's get things started off tonight. What is our T-shirt of the week? What do you got for us?
I have been waiting a long time to wear this one. It was a gift from my friend and one of our viewers, Richard, out in Vermont.
Nice.
And of course, there's a little town out in Vermont called Stowe, Vermont. And Richard sent this to me. I promised I would wear it on an upcoming episode. His question was on subwoofer placement.
Yeah.
Tonight's topic is close enough because it's about driver spacing, sort of. So anyway, that's how we're going to make that work. And it is I don't know, can you read that?
May the forest be with you. Is that what I'm seeing?
That's what you're saying. May the forest be with you, Stowe, Vermont.
And being in Vermont, of course, a heavily wooded area, almost like northern Minnesota.
Almost. No Stowe's here. So, Richard, thank you. I appreciate it. It's very comfortable, too. I like it.
There you go. There you go. And if any of you out there happen to run across a really cool T-shirt that you'd like Ben to wear on an upcoming episode, you can just connect with him on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you want to, and get him the shirt. He really is needing shirts. We're running out of wardrobe.
No, I'm not proud. I'll take free shirts.
There we are. Well, tonight's topic, you kind of alluded to it, we're going to be talking about speakers, and specifically what I'm seeing over your right shoulder there is line array.
You got it.
This is pretty cool. Let's start at the beginning. What is a definition of line array that DJs can understand?
Well, I'll give you the definition of the perfect line array as given to me by my good friend Stu Schatz, who is an incredibly talented audio engineer. Certainly the next level beyond me. He just doesn't have as pretty a face as me, so he doesn't get on camera. I can say that safely because I know Stu doesn't watch my show. So, but Stu said that the perfect line array is an infinitely long array of infinitely small devices that produces 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz full bandwidth audio.
Okay.
Of course, we don't live in a perfect world, and no such line array really exists. We don't have infinitely long arrays, and we don't have infinitely small devices. So now, stepping away from that and trying to get into a definition, like you said, that maybe the average pro audio professional can understand. A line array, in the simplest terms, is an array of speakers. However, you can't just take speakers and line them up and accomplish a line array. There's a lot of engineering that goes into that. Fundamentally, what it works with is the spacing of drivers. We have to take the individual drivers and then, of course, the whole box full of drivers, as it were, and engineer them in such a way that when we array them together, we accomplish coupling. And we achieve some real benefits of that. One being increased efficiency, but two being increased pattern control. And that's really where line array, I think, excels, is the ability to control its pattern and distribute a very even coverage of sound over a long distance. And also, now I'm kind of adding ands here.
Yeah, you are. I've got a couple of questions already, and you keep anding away here.
I was going to say, we're probably going to take a break, go back in here and break this up a little bit. So the last part of my run-on sentence is like a kid in third grade. And
I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
Is that unlike a point source box, which is maybe like a typical speaker DJs are used to using, a speaker on a stick, so to speak, a two-way box. That's what we call a point source device. Unlike that, where we lose 6 dB every time we double the distance, with a line array we only lose 3 dB to a certain frequency, and that's very important. That brings us all the way back to the driver spacing. So that's why we can't simply take boxes and line them up and make a line array. That there's a lot of engineering that goes into here, and actually there's a lot of engineering that goes into using these too. So on with the questions.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to. You mentioned coupling. Now, give me kind of a what does coupling mean when you talk about it in the lines or the ability with putting speakers together like that?
Well, let's break sound down to its simplest form, and that's a wave. And when we think about sound, traveling in waves, every frequency has a different wavelength. The lower the frequency, the longer the wavelength, and the higher the frequency, the shorter the wavelength. A really good example for kind of illustrative purposes here is if we take a wave that is 100 hertz, that's going to be about 11.3 feet. Okay. And we're ballparking. Basically, you take the frequency and the speed of sound, which now the speed of sound does change based on temperature and humidity, but we can pretty much say 1128 feet per second and be pretty close. So we take that 100 hertz and 1128 feet per second, we're going to get 11.28. We'll call it 11.3 feet for that wavelength. Okay. Increase that to 1,000 hertz, meaning 1,000 waves per second, or sometimes we would say 1 kilohertz. And now we're at 1.13 feet. And if we, take that up to 10,000 hertz, we're just kind of working in multiples of 10. Yeah. It's got easy zeros here. Well, now we're talking about a wave that is, 0.11 feet. So, as the frequency gets higher, the wavelength gets smaller. What does it have to do with your question you asked me? Well,
we're getting there. Yeah, I was wondering about that. If this is another run-on sentence.
And nobody is watching anymore. When these frequencies, these drivers are operating within 3/4 of a wavelength, the devices will sum, meaning they'll act like one device. So if we have a speaker here, and they're within 3/4 of a wavelength of the frequency they're reproducing, it will act like one speaker. And that is exactly what we accomplish with line array, is we make one giant speaker.
Interesting. So then spacing between those two, you said 3/4 of a, say that again?
3/4 of a wavelength.
3/4 of a wavelength. So does that mean that at a lower frequency they could be spread apart and still achieving that 3/4 of a wavelength, whereas a higher frequency they'd have to be tighter?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And that's why inside these boxes we'll find multiple devices. We'll find in this particular box there's a 12-inch low frequency, or mid-low in this case, because it would be paired with subwoofers. There's a couple of mid-range devices, and then there's a couple of high-frequency devices. We might call those horns in our speaker-on-stick analogy, but a horn simply wouldn't work here now, because the horn and the horn flare, remember we're down to talking about these 0.11 foot waves, these very small waves. We just simply couldn't put the horns close enough together. Right. So what they do here is we use a device called a waveguide. And actually you can pop up this picture real quick of the waveguide, and you'll see how the wave comes into the throat of the waveguide, and lots of little bitty waves come out. Yeah. So it's like having lots of little bitty high frequency devices instead of one. That allows us to make that happen throughout the entire array.
And is that just a mechanical sound device, splitter we'll call it, or is that an electronic device?
No, it's purely passive. In fact, I've got one here. This one's a brand new design. I'm not sure if I'm actually allowed to show this. So
okay, we'll close our eyes.
Yeah, everybody close your eyes.
Close your eyes, don't watch, don't look. But I'm going to hold this up now.
But this is from a brand new line array series that's just been released. And here we can see the outside. We see lots of these little channels. And then on the inside, we can see just exactly what we saw there. And the reason that they are curved is time. We have to slow this middle wave down so that it arrives to the exit at the same time as the outer waves. So we still have to time align these things. We just take, get back together here. We take that one entrance.
So now, Ben, what the
tight tolerances?
Well, before you put them back together, or before you break them.
I just got it together.
Now, are there different frequencies going through? I mean, how are the frequencies distributed in that? You were saying that some of them had to go slower than others. Is that, or is it just the same frequencies going through, and you want some to go at different rates? How is that working with that? Okay.
Well, all frequencies travel at the same speed, regardless whether it's bass or treble. All frequencies travel at the same speed. There's just more of them occurring per second, and so all of the same frequencies enter here, and all of the same frequencies exit here. But the path here is longer than if this was a straight line.
I got you. I got you. So they're just compensating for it.
Detour a little bit just to slow these middle ones down so they catch up to the ones coming around the outside. Because again, the end game is to make this, you know, small device a bigger device, so that when we put these in our array, make sure I'm on camera here. You know, let's just pretend that this is what you might find inside this box. 2 of these stacked on top. You know.
And then the box above it would have 2 additional, and that would give you the full.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay.
It's just physics.
It is, and it's something that unless you've seen that, you wouldn't understand what those little chambers are. It's kind of cool stuff.
Now, in the case of the frequencies that the 12-inch driver is producing, you know, we're well within 3/4 of wavelength. You know, let's just pick on. You know, even at 1,000 hertz, even if we took 1,000 hertz and said, well, what about the speaker that's producing that? Well, it just has to be, you know, within 3/4 of a foot, give or take, about, you know, 0.85 feet for 1.13 feet, you know, of 1,000 hertz. So that's obviously being accomplished here, you know, by the spacing of those devices. And then we get into the lower frequencies, that wavelength gets bigger, and it's no problem. Which leads to a really interesting phenomenon. And I'm probably jumping way ahead here.
Probably. But I've heard you've done that once before.
Yeah, probably once. Where, you know, because of the way that the wavelengths are handled here, you will hear the high frequency from only one box, but you'll hear the low frequency from many boxes. So we tend to use the ski hill EQ, as it were. And the length of the array affects that, and that gets into some pretty heavy-duty stuff. Pull up the picture. Pull up the picture with the guy with the smiley face and the HF and LF arrows there.
Okay.
And you'll see what I mean. See where he's getting the HF, just that red band from that box, but he's picking up the LF from all the boxes. Because, you know, again, the way those wavelengths are larger and don't beam, and lots of other really engineering fun stuff. So if you take a look at the ski hill EQ shot, you'll see that we actually EQ the high frequency up just a little bit to compensate for that.
Sure.
And that varies on the length of the array and the room and lots of things. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here. And I think that's one good takeaway, is that line array is really not set it and forget it. You really need to understand what you're trying to accomplish, the room you're trying to accomplish it in, and you need to have enough boxes. This reminds me of a concert that I was doing sound production for, and it was a country gospel band.
Okay.
And they walked into these, you know, 15-foot tall arrays hanging from the rigging. And, I mean, they about had a seizure, you know. They said, holy moly, you know, is that really necessary? And he wasn't very happy, actually. You know, he was like, you know, listen, my audience is predominantly older people. And I think he was kind of new to produce shows. Actually very new. They'd just been signed to a label, and I think this was sort of the kicking off of their,
sure,
you know, I'm what you get, I guess, when you're just starting out. So, and I explained to him, yeah, it absolutely is necessary. It has nothing to do with how loud we're going to be. I mean, granted, this box can rearrange your organs, this array, but it's more about the pattern control necessary throughout the frequency range to cover that room evenly. And I can tell you what, through their gospel message, a lot of people were converted that night, and so was he, but he was converted to physics. He said, wow, that is amazing.
The ministry of Ben Stowe.
Yeah,
saving souls with physics, baby.
The good Lord gave me a brain to understand physics and sound, and this is my ministry, I guess, helping country gospel folks have good sound. So I'm all right with that. That's the way the Lord wants me to work, so be it.
Oh,
so,
funny.
Yeah.
We just lost all of our atheist viewers right now, so.
Yeah, sorry, Randy. You know,
he's out the door. DJ Dry Ice is out of the building.
Oh. I have nothing against atheists. I think you know, it's there's enough room for everybody on the planet, and I believe shouldn't affect them. What they believe or don't believe doesn't affect me. So
there you are. There you are. So now this is a commercial line array that you're there with right now. Now, does that differ than some of the things that we see in the DJ industry? Some of the things that are being built as line arrays, some of the different boxes and what have you. Is it the same technology that's being used between the two, and what kind of differences would I have?
It is the same technology, and it's the same fundamental laws of physics, but they are not the same. You know, probably one of the things that comes to mind is a constant curvature array, which is a box that is fixed in a constant curve, whereas other line arrays would have different angles, you know, and we would set those angles very precisely to control our frequencies and our coverage. Constant curvature, you get what you get. Now they're engineered to serve a very specific purpose, and they do. They tend to be less expensive than a production line array, and they're aimed at, you know, that market. They, you know, there's just really no way to say this nicely. They're not cut from the same cloth.
Sure.
You know, that's not a rub against those good constant curvature arrays out there. Again, you do have some benefits of coupling. You know, what you have is simple and quick and easy to set up. But what you also have is pretty limited, and something like this would absolutely eat that for lunch.
You're right.
But there's a pretty big difference in terms of size, weight, use, and cost. So really, you know, it comes down to my favorite answer. It depends. What do you want to accomplish? If you want to accomplish what a concert line array will accomplish, those other arrays aren't going to do it.
Right.
For example, now take, you know, the columnar array. You know, the stick.
Yes.
Bose is, you know, one example. Of course, there's dozens of people that have been making them. They've been around for 50 years. Advantages to that too. You have some driver coupling, but we can break that down into some pretty heavy math, and I won't. But it comes down to the size of the driver, the number of the drivers, the length of the array, and that's going to determine where your pattern control, you know, occurs. Again, categorically, it's just not the same. But it's made for someone to go out and stick it down, turn it on, and you get, you know, what you get.
What you get, yeah, yep.
You know, I have a little baby line array box here with me.
As he grunts as he picks it up. Yeah, it's a baby box.
It is a baby. Well, you know, this 4-box stack to my right is probably somewhere around 175 pounds. So this is a baby. But these are big babies. Line arrays are weapons-grade audio.
Yeah.
You know, they're generally designed, particularly when you get into the production class line arrays. You know, this exact line array model that you see here, you know, was out on tour with Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney, Jake Owen, Led Zeppelin. Actually, I think some of these exact boxes did one of Tim McGraw's shows, but that's, I don't know. I believe that to be true. But anyway, it's hard to keep track of what's going where all the time. But anyway, they are truly, you know, aimed at the highest tier customer in terms of, you know, raw quality coverage. They're not audiophile like an expensive home stereo, but if you want a great sound in an arena of 30,000 people, that's your guy.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, on the baby here, we see these holes here on the side, and this is so that when we array these boxes together, we can adjust the splay or the angle of these boxes to create the curvature necessary to achieve the coverage that we need. Actually, if you pull up a picture there, you'll see a screenshot showing an array, and you'll see a red diamond on it.
Oh yeah, yep.
The red diamond, by the way, is the center of gravity for the array. This is generated by the software. So when we put in the parameters that we need, that will be produced. If you pull up the other screenshot now, the lap screenshot, you'll see where it shows me what angle to use, what pinhole to use, what, you know, shading needs to occur, meaning how much power each box gets. You know, we punch all these things in, and we can see the coverage. We can see the formula showing us what we get for coverage across the frequency band and across the size and length of the room. I'm kind of hopping all over here. I apologize. You have to range.
No, you're good. You're good. This is good.
Let's go back to these constant curvature arrays versus line arrays.
Yeah.
And it's not really a versus. I mean, there is no, you know, if you're looking for portability, size, weight, and cost, the constant curvature is going to win. If you're looking for output, performance, coverage, precision, well, then a production line array is going to win. They're apples and grapefruit, really.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Use arraying technology. They're just not interchangeable, really. It's not one or the other.
Certainly.
Not in my book, anyway, and it's my show, so
there you go. Yep. Your name's on the title, so you get to make the rules tonight until it gets on social media, and then everyone will...
Yeah, I'll be shredded tomorrow.
Exactly. Ask Ben Stowe's Facebook group will be? What was
first? It's for professing my faith.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna rip you a new one next. Your T-shirts next week are gonna be.
You know what? I'm okay with that. I think if you don't have thick skin in this industry, you're not going to be around long. And I got thick skin.
Yep. Yep.
You know, and I have a lot of friends, and I think they enjoy having a little bit of fun with me, and I think that's what makes life interesting. You know, so.
And that's why they haven't canceled us yet.
That or lack of options.
Exactly. We keep trying. Let's talk amplifiers. What kind of amplifiers does a person need to run? Because these, obviously are so much different than some of the traditional speakers that I was using forever. Does it need a special amplification system, or how does that work?
Not really. Amplifiers are more or less amplifiers. Obviously, you want the power plant of your system to match the transmission. To use a car analog here. We would want to use amplifiers up to the challenge of what these boxes are going to be asked to do. Quality amplifier makes a huge difference on what the speaker actually will do. Concert grade amplifiers tend to, again, they're weapons grade. Many of them have the processing built right in. With line array, some of the real benefits now is an FIR processing, finite impulse response. Yep. I think we covered that a little bit in the EQ episode. Yeah. So there's a little plug to go back and watch the EQ episode. But there really isn't any reason that you couldn't use good processing and a decent amplifier and just put them together and power this rig. There are some line array boxes that come with amplifiers built in. Most of the productions and concerts that I see are still using passive boxes and racks of amps for lots of reasons. Good amplifiers, still have some weight to them. They're still, at the end of the day, hardware takes weight. Stuff on the road takes an incredible beating, so these things have to be built just a little bit tougher. I just got done reseating a video card in a $70,000 mixing board today, and $70,000 to get you a pretty good board, but even that, get bounced around on the road semi, the video board gets knocked loose, you gotta fix it. Irritating, mind you, but point being, this stuff has to be built really well for the life that it's going to live. It's going to be out 5 nights a week, and it's going to do hundreds and hundreds of shows. So, but neither here nor there. Let's talk, if we could, for a second about why the length of the array is so important. That's kind of a point I want to come back to with constant curvature. Because of the constant curvature of that array, you're limited to 4 or 5 boxes, and pretty soon you just start making a circle. Sure. You can't do that. So they're obviously not designed for long arrays. And I mentioned that the pattern control is specific to the length of the array. Pull up the chart here where you see the number of boxes and the frequency. Now, what we see here is a correlation of the number of boxes in the array to the pattern that, to the frequency with which this behaves like a line array. Okay. The pattern is like a line array. And you can see as we add boxes, that frequency goes down. The control grows. And as we eliminate boxes, it becomes more and more and more like a point source device. So we lose the benefit of having an array.
Which that benefit is the expanded coverage and the longer throw. Absolutely. Yeah, the ability to only lose 3 decibels every time we double the distance to a certain frequency. And that frequency is determined by the length of the array. For example, if we take an array that's 20 boxes, and this is model specific, mind you, so just roll with my math here, okay? Sure. But let's take a 20 box. This is the ones to my right that you saw a minute ago. Take a 20 box array. It's going to be 33.8 feet long, call it 34 feet long. We take that and divide it by 5 because that's a magic number, and we're not going to get into that. Just trust me, it's 5. And that gives us 6.76 feet. And now we take our speed of sound, 1,128 feet per second. We divide it by 6.76. And somewhere between 166 and 170 hertz now is our effective line array frequency. Which means that then the line array basically to that point will be able to cover the room. But then what happens to the below that? What happens to those sounds? Well, it just behaves more and more like a point source device. With our back to our speaker on stick. In fact,
sometimes you go to concerts, you'll see line array boxes laying on the front of the stage. It's just one box all by itself, and those are what we call front fills. They're designed for the people sitting, inside the coverage where the line array boxes aren't going to cover them. That first few rows, you have probably 120-degree horizontal pattern, which, by the way, that's another cool thing about line array. The width is huge.
Sure.
It's 120-degree horizontal coverage, but there's still that little triangle between the stage and that front area, that maybe it's not getting as much coverage. And we'll just put one box down, and then you have that coverage there in the front. Now, just straying from that for a second, that if you have a catwalk or something, or a walkway that goes out, a big stage, there are probably, delayed arrays and things rigged, and that's covered a different way. But, it's, again, it's not that they can't be used individually, it's that they're more effective as an array when the array is bigger.
Gotcha. In a situation like that, where you've got roughly everything below 160, what have you, that isn't in the array, now would they be using subwoofers, stacks of subwoofers then on the floor in front of the stage, or how would they handle that? Yeah,
absolutely. You're gonna actually have subwoofer arrays even. They would be stacked. Sometimes they're flown. There's some more engineering that goes into what we're trying to accomplish with our low frequencies, putting that sound where we want it. Getting enough of it, but that's really an entirely different animal. And again, it all comes back to what we started with. It's frequency dependent. So as the frequency changes, so does the distance for coupling and the performance characteristics thereof.
Gotcha. Very cool.
It is cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, I learned something.
This is, like I said, it's weapons grade audio.
Yeah. Bigger than your typical wedding system, but neat stuff to know when it gets time to do those larger events, that you do need different tools.
More than like it. I'll tell you what, if our very own Kat Carlson here from Mental Effects, if she ever gets married, we'll probably bring out some line arrays, just because 10,000 people from around the country are want to kind of come just to see this happen. So
there'll be like film crews and the paparazzi will be all over. It's gonna be awesome.
Absolutely. You know what? Absolutely. I mean, our industry's media would be there to cover it, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. You got to make sure.
You know what? She'll just go off and get married on some private island somewhere. You'll hear about it on TMZ the next day.
Right. Live from Lake Bemidji.
That's right. We don't have an island in Lake Bemidji, but there's an island around here somewhere.
Yeah, but it's pretty shallow. I think you could almost stand out in the middle of the lake and you'd be good.
Viewers, you realize that if Kat ever sees this video, this will be my last show. The next episodes will be whatever we filmed, and they'll be aired posthumously. So,
well, cool stuff.
Don't tell her.
Yeah, shh, don't go there. Well, cool stuff. I think we've learned a lot about line arrays tonight. Good stuff.
Yeah, very effective tool. They are not for the faint of heart. They're not the end-all, save-all for everything. They're just another tool in your arsenal. And people ask me, what should I get? You already know the answer. It depends. But they serve a specific purpose, and you shouldn't run out to throw away your point source boxes and buy a line array just because you want to have a line array. Understand what you're trying to accomplish, and then pull from your inventory the most effective tool for the job. And again, we now see the engineering qualities of what line array brings us. But of course, we see the drawbacks, which is size, weight, cost.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, neat stuff. Neat stuff. Well, let's wrap it up here, Ben. If you got any questions or any thoughts or anything, go to Twitter and you can contact Ben in the corner over there. We've got our little thing where you can do the hashtag NLFXBen, or you can do the @ NLFXBen, or I hear Ben gets on Facebook once in a while.
Way too much. Way too much.
But you can find Ben on Facebook. Just search Ben Stowe and ask some questions. Share some. There's a neat group, Ask Ben Stowe, where you can go there, and sometimes there's some really good questions, and sometimes there's things that's like, we covered that. Here's a link.
I want to set the record straight here real quick, if I could.
Yeah.
I didn't create that page. I didn't.
Yep, that is true. I know a couple of the guys I think that did create the page.
I'm flattered. I'm absolutely flattered. I'm honored. I think it's two things. It's wonderful. One is that people think I can help them. I find that to be a tremendous honor, and I try to live up to that. And two is that there are so many of my smart friends on that site that usually somebody else answers the question before I can anyway.
Yes.
So I just benefit from having a name attached to it, but you know, it's a tremendous honor. I just wanted the whole world to know I didn't make that page. So
Yep.
I'm just content to answer your questions.
Yeah, good stuff. And you do answer questions, so that's the important part. Well, Ben, thank you very much for your time tonight. We are going to wrap things up. This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV. Good night.